Hey everyone, welcome to this video, and in this video we are going to learn how to create a navigation drawer using Jetpack Compose. So let's get started. Alright, so as you see in my screen, I have a navigation drawer. On the top portion we have the navigation header, and we also have 4 menus. Clicking on each of the menus will take us to different screens. So we are going to implement something similar. So first we will start with implementing the top portion, which is the app bar. Let me create a new package called app bar, and inside this package we are going to create a new Kotlin file. We will name it as app bar. So in this Kotlin file we are going to create a new compose function. Let me show you some of the dependencies that we are using for this project. As you see, we are using material 3 to create this navigation drawer. Okay, let's start. So in order to create any compose function, we will annotate that function as composable. So inside this app bar we are taking drawer state as a parameter. We are also taking title, which is a string resource. Now we are going to design a data class for this app bar, which will take actually app bar action. So this app bar action can take an icon, a description, as well as a click. Now we will pass this data class inside our compose function. Since we will have different action for different menus, so it will be a list of app bar action. So now we will define top app bar, which is a material 3 compose function. Inside that we will have our title, and inside the title we are defining a text compose function, and we will pass our title from parameter. We will also add some styling here. We will give it a medium size of text. So now in this top app bar we will also have a parameter for actions as well as for navigation icon. Okay, so let's create the compose function for this action first. We are going to name it as app bar action compose, and inside this app bar action compose we will take a parameter which is app bar action, the data class that we defined, and inside here we will call our icon button a compose function, and inside that we are creating an icon, and this icon will come from the data class itself. So now that our app bar action compose is ready, okay, let me also add a modifier in this case. I'm giving it a size of 24 dp and also a tint color. Alright, so our app bar action compose function is ready. Now we will create another compose function for this navigation icon. So this is the drawer menu icon that we have. We call it hamburger menu, right? So we are creating a drawer icon compose function. So we are also implementing on click inside this icon button compose function inside the drawer icon function, so that it can handle clicks. So in order to call the drawer state.open, we need to run it inside a coroutine scope, since this is a suspended function. The open is a suspended function. Now inside the icon button we are defining an icon, and we are giving it a menu icon as well as a content description. We will also provide a tint here. Alright. Okay, so now our drawer icon compose function is also ready. Inside these actions we will create a for loop, and for each of the menu items in the navigation drawer, we're going to call this compose function called app_action_compose. Now for the navigation icon, first we are checking if the drawer state is not null, we will pass the drawer icon compose function that we just created. So now our app bar designing is ready. Now we will create the content of the drawer. So let me create a package for that, naming it as app drawer. So inside this app drawer, we are going to create a new Kotlin file. We will name it as app drawer content. Now similarly, this will be a compose function. We are defining it as a composable, and inside the function we will have some parameters. So we will take drawer state, we will also take menu items. Now we will create a data class for our app drawer item info. This data class will hold all the information related to app drawer item. So we will take drawer option, which is a click option. We are taking the title. We will also take a drawable resource for the icon, naming it as drawer ID. We will also take a description ID. Okay, now that's done. Now we will use that inside our app drawer content parameter, and we are taking a list of menu items since this will be a list of items. We are taking default pick. In our case, the default pick will be the home screen, and we are also taking a lambda function for on click of this app drawer content. Now inside the model drawer sheet, I'm taking a surface and giving it a color of white. Okay, I'm also adding a modifier of fill max height. Now inside this surface I am creating a column, so also telling that the column will be center horizontal. So now inside this column we will have two components, one is the header and one is the drawer list or body. So inside the drawer list we will have all the menus for the drawers. So let's first create the drawer header. Now inside the header we have a circular image, which is the avatar, and we will also have a text just underneath of that circular image. So we will first create the circular image and then we will create the text compose function. So inside the image we are taking an image from our drawable resource, and we are making content scale crop, and inside the modifier we are using .clip.circle shape in order to provide it a circular shape with 64 dp of size. So now our image compose function is ready. We will give a little bit spacing between our image and the text so that those two compose functions don't collide with each other. Now we would like to have a medium size of the text. So let's also add an alignment. We would definitely want to centralize that, and the color should be black. Also added a font size. So now our drawer header is ready. Let's create the drawer body, but before creating that we have to create a compose function for the drawer item. You can think this as an adapter where we create an item for each of the items of a list. So this drawer item will contain the view for each of the menus in the navigation drawer. So inside this app drawer item we will have two parameters, one is item info and another one is on click. We are adding a surface, also providing it a width of a fixed width of 250 dp so that our drawer do not contain the full width of the screen. And we are also going to handle a click event inside this surface, and inside the click we will take the click from our item info object that we have created. Now let's create a row. So this will be a horizontal decoration. So we will have an icon and as well as a text inside this row. So let's create the icon first. The icon will come from item info object, and for the content description we will also take it from item info. Okay, now we will give a little bit spacing. Okay, we are giving it a 24 dp of size and also providing it a tint color. Alright, now we will give a little bit of spacing between this icon so that we can draw our text with a extra spacing between the icon and the text. Let me just grab this text composable, and for the text we will take it from item info object, of course, and rest can be the same. Now let's come back to the app drawer content compose function. Here we will create a new compose function for the app drawer body. Now inside this body we are going to take all the 4 parameters of app drawer content. Now we will create a compose function called lazy column. So this is something like recycler view if you have used it before. So it will decorate the items vertically. Now inside that we will write items and we pass the menu items inside that. Now we will call our app drawer item compose function that we just created. Now for the item info we will pass this lambda item, and for the handling the click we are writing some code here. So we will first create a local variable called current pick. This is to determine what is the current item selected or current item clicked on the menus. And for the initial value we are passing in the default pick for this current pick. We are also defining a coroutine scope here. Okay. Now we are checking if the current selected item is the one which has been selected before. We will simply close the drawer and returning it from here. Okay, now if that's not the case, then we will pass the current pick as we will pass the nav option as the current pick, and we will also close the drawer, and we will also invoke our onClick function. So now we will call our app drawer body inside our app drawer content compose function, and we will also pass the parameters respectively. So now our app drawer content is ready. Now we will handle our navigation. So in our case there are 4 menus, so we will have 4 different screens where we will navigate while clicking on each of the items in the drawer. So let's create a new package called navigation, and inside the package we're going to create a new Kotlin file. Here I am going to create an extension function of navgraph builder and naming it as main graph. Here the parameters will be drawer state. So for the navigation we will have 4 different screens: home screen, about screen, settings screen, and favorite screen. And for the routes it will be just only one route. Let me create nav route, and it will be just main route. Alright, so now let's create the 4 screens that we will have where we will navigate while we click any of the menu items. So first one is the home screen. So here I'm going to create a compose function for the home screen. We are passing the drawer state as a parameter, and we are taking a scaffold here, and we will pass a top bar, and we already defined the app bar before. Now we are passing it inside the top bar, and in the column we are passing a modifier. So we will just take a simple text here inside this column, and we will write that this is the home screen. Okay, all right. So now similarly we will create 3 other screens. About screen, just the text will be different here. In this case it will be about screen, and we will also have favorite screen. Okay, favorite screen. Okay, and we will also have a setting screen. All right. Now let's get back to our navigation function that we were creating. So now we will write composable, and we will write the screen name, and here we will define our screen, which is the home screen. And similarly for the rest of the 3, we will have, for about screen we will have the about screen compose function, similarly for the favorite, and similarly for the settings. So now that our navigation function is ready, let's get back to the main activity where we need to set our main screen. But before that, let's also create an array list of the drawer items, which is the menu items. So here I'm taking an array list of app drawer item info. The first item will be the home screen in this case. Now similarly for rest of the 3 items, it will be about screen, the third one will be favorite screen, and finally the last one will be the settings screen. Okay, now let's create a main screen compose function so that we can set it inside our onCreate in the main activity. So here we are taking a nav host controller as parameter. We will remember that host controller, so that every time this compose function gets called, the nav host controller doesn't reinitiate. It will remember the state of the nav host controller. And we are also taking the drawer state with initial value of closed. So initially we want the drawer not to open by itself, and it will be in closed state. Inside the main screen we are taking a surface, and inside the surface we are taking model navigation drawer, which is from material 3, and inside this model navigation drawer we are calling our app drawer content which we created. Now inside this app drawer we are just passing our parameters for drawer state, menu items, and default pick. In our case the default pick will be the home screen. So now we will handle the cases for our 4 screens that we will have for the 4 menus. So for the home screen, let's write it down inside the when statement. We will write nav controller.navigate to user picked option, which is home screen in this case, and pop up to roads.main route. This will be similar for the screens. Now we also need to call the main graph for the navigation. Inside here we will call our nav host, and inside the nav host we will call the nav controller, and for the start destination we will call navroutes.main.route, and we will call the main graph. So now we will set our content inside on create, and we'll call the main screen compose function. Looks like we have a build error, so let's clean up the project real quick. Okay, now it runs, and you see we have 4 items, and we also have the drawer header. Clicking on each of the items taking us to different screens. Now let's add an enhancement of this existing project. So we will add a divider horizontal for each of the menu items so that the items look more neat and clean. So we are going to write horizontal divider here. We are taking a column and we are putting our row at the first place, and below of that we will create a horizontal divider. We are giving a color gray and a thickness of, let's say, 0.5 dp in this case. Let's run this project. Now as you see, we have this horizontal divider. Okay, all right, now let's adjust our theme here. We are defining some colors inside the theme package, and we are also creating a Kotlin file called theme. So here we will create a variable called color scheme, and we are taking light color scheme. If you want, you can also take for the dark color scheme, but just for the demonstration purpose we are using light color scheme. And we are taking different colors from our color file. So basically we want our top bar and also bottom navigation bar to be colored. Also this content screens, the 4 content screens, we want to give some color to it. So let's create a theme compose function, and it will take a composable function inside as parameter. Okay, so now for the color scheme we are creating a local variable, and let's also create a view. Now we are taking another local variable which is current window, and inside here we will assign our current window. Okay, now we will launch a side effect, and inside this side effect we will take our status bar and we will assign a background color from color scheme to this status bar. Now for the nav bar we will also assign the same color. Now we will pass our current window and view in the get instance insets controller. Now we will call our material theme, and we will assign this color scheme here inside this material theme. Okay, and we will also assign our content, which is the parameter itself. Now let's call this theme inside our main screen composable. That should do the work. As you see, now we have colorful screens as well as nav bar and the status bar as well. Now for example, if we want to add a title for each of the screens on the top bar, so in order to do that we just need to pass the title inside our app bar from each of the screens. So let's assign the titles, okay, for 4 of the screens that we have. All right, so also assign it for the settings here. Now let's run it. Now as you see, for the 4 screens we have 4 different titles. So yeah, that's it.